Hello everyone, I'm Beastly Eel, and in today's video we're going to be doing a DC character spotlight. It's been a while since I've done one of these. And so the character is going to be John Henry Irons. For those of you who don't know what that is, he eventually turns into the Man of Steel, but then also just Steel. So John Henry Irons' parents were murdered when he was young, and he felt the only way to protect his family was to become rich and powerful, so he went to Yale on a sports scholarship before getting hired by Amertech Industries. Irons, a ballistic expert, enjoyed both wealth, success, and designing high-tech weapons for a contractor with government ties. Irons used his money to help his family and was convinced that he was doing good. When a series of weapon prototypes, the BG-60s, were leaked to a terrorist cell in Korak, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, a fight a firefight erupted that left many innocent people dead. Irons, flying over the incident, was horrified at the thought of what his work had led to. He destroyed all the remnant prototypes and attempted to delete all information of a more powerful model, the BG-8, before going into hiding into Metropolis. That's where he got a job as a steelworker under the assumed name Henry Johnson. Well, one day, a coworker on the high-rise fell, and Henry swung out to save him, only to fall and plummet towards his death. Luckily, Superman saved him. Henry, in quotes, Henry told Superman he owed him his life, and Superman replied by telling him he should make it count for something. And not very long afterwards, Doomsday smashed his way into Metropolis, and when Irons tried to save Superman, only to be buried in a collapsed building, he was unable to free himself until it was too late, where Superman died. A few weeks later, his weapons were being used by gangs on the street under the name Toast Makers. Irons decided that he must take action, so he forged a suit of armor, flight boots, and completed the look with an S emblem and a cape. He quickly learned the source of the guns was the mysterious White Rabbit. A neighbor of his, a psychic named Rosie Kratz, ins- um, insisted that this new Man of Steel was in fact Superman, or at least Superman's soul in a new body. At the same time, however, there were three other Supermen in Metropolis, all with seemingly stronger claims. The Man of Steel got to work. Shrugging off an offer of employment by Lex Luthor, he continued to follow the trail of guns to the source. During his effort, he met Lois Lane after she saved her in a manner um, very similar to how she met Superman. Unlike the other imposters, however, the Man of Steel insisted that he was not actually Superman. He also rebunked Superboy for being too reckless. His search led him to the White Rabbit, and as he feared, it was his old partner, Angora, who helped him design the weapons. She offered him a partnership, and then he refused, and she blasted him out the window and fled. As he attempted to track down the White Rabbit, the Man of Steel encountered the Eradicator, calling himself the last son of Krypton, who brutally killed a thug who had turned a gun on Irons. Steel critici- um, Irons criticized the visor-wearing Superman, telling him that there was no way he could be the real thing. Enraged, the Eradicator attacked the Man of Steel, and they fought until Lois arrived and was able to pull them apart. The last son got enraged again when a process server arrived telling him that Superboy had secured the rights to the name Superman. Steel attempted to contain the situation, prompting the Eradicator to launch them almost into orbit before crashing in California. The Eradicator resumed the fight, but Steel was able to battle him to a standstill, at least temporarily, yelling that Superman was about more than just having power. It was also about having humanity and compassion. The Eradicator withdrew from the battle. Steel got a lift back to Metropolis, where the White Rabbit ambushed him at the airport. Fighting off her thugs, he grabbed her and forced her to take her to the manufacturing plant. She attempted another ambush there, but he broke free. The plant was destroyed and Rabbit seemingly killed, but Steel knew it was not the end of the Toastmasters. After Coast City was destroyed, Steel decided to investigate firsthand. The cyborg Superman had announced that he and Superboy were not able to defeat the last son responsible for the destruction. But Steel did not trust this account. Running into Lois Lane, he had found she was also looking into this. Hearing a nearby disturbance, they found Lex Luthor and Supergirl at the docks, facing a huge Kryptonian war suit. Superboy arrived as Steel knocked down the suit and telling everyone that the cyborg is the real villain and planned on destroying Metropolis next. The real Superman emerged from the war suit. Steel and the others were skeptical at first, especially since this Superman was powerless and wearing a black costume. Upon being briefed of the situation and having a private conversation with Lois, Superman decided to head for the ruins of Coast City. Steel and Superboy decided to go with him. Despite their doubts, Superman borrowed a pair of LexCorp flight boots and they set out, discovering Engine City in the midst of the ruins and launched a frontal attack. They managed to access the city, but Superboy had to quickly leave again to deflect a missile launched after Metropolis. Steel and Superman continued their way inside, where Superman revealed that Supergirl had been with them the entire time, fighting invisible alongside them. This only helped affirm to Steel that Superman was who he claimed to be. The trio encountered the Mongol, who announced that he was just ordered Engine City to fire its reactors, which would cause Earth to spin out of orbit. While Superman and Supergirl fight Mongols, Steel went off to stop the reactor when he encountered the cyborg. Taking on the monstrous new forms, Steel desperately gave all he got to grind the engines to a halt, saving Earth and frustrating the cyborg's plan. Steel managed to free himself, but his armor was ruined. Superboy returned and saved Steel from the cyborg, while Green Lantern used Steel's hammer to defeat Mongol. In the end, however, Superman had to battle Cyborg one-on-one, but emerged victorious and back to full strength. Steel, battered and bruised, left the ruins, heading back to Metropolis alongside Superboy and Supergirl via a military transport helicopter. After a few weeks of doing his best without his armor to round up more Toastmasters, John Henry decided it is time to head back to where it all began, Washington, D.C. He parted ways with Superman and left Metropolis, and what he thought was his career as a superhero. Well, he returned home to D.C. after 5 years, really believing that his old employers, Amertech, would no longer be interested in him. He was met at the bus station by his niece, Natasha, just before a gang fight erupted. One side using Toastmasters and the other relying on a drug called tar, which gained temporary super strength, very similar to Venom. Obviously, not to the same degree. Irons, unarmed and without his armor, tried to intervene, but was distracted when he thought he saw his nephew, uh, which resulted him into being knocked out by a tar-infused gang member. When he regained consciousness, he headed home with his niece, where he was greeted by his grandparents, Bess and Butter Irons, his sister-in-law, and the rest of their children. Um, his nephew arrived at dinner time just before an attack on the home by soldiers working for Amertech. Between this attack and his knowledge that the Toastmasters were now being used on the streets of DC, he forged his new armor and began his crusade against Amertech, which he correctly knew was responsible for leaking weapons into the street. Steel this time decided not to use the S symbol on his chest, since he felt that his battle might take him outside the law, and he did not want to tarnish the symbol of hope. Steel fought against Armatech and the gangs using their weapons he designed. He quickly learned his nephew was involved in one of the gangs, which he thought offered both the family and himself protection. His faith in his crew is shaken, however, when his fellow gang member, Spiral, framed the nephew after a gun deal went bad. The gang's leader, Cowboy, turned on Steel's nephew over to their supplier. Steel rescued his nephew and delivered the real culprit to the police. However, not before the arms dealer killed the leader. Um, so Steele confronted his old employer, Weston, who had already known Steele was in fact John Henry Irons. Steele went on to break into Amertech looking for proof that they were responsible for selling not only to the Toastmasters but tar as well. During the break-in, a firefight set off a ruptured gas main, leading to the building's destruction. Weston publicly denounced Steele as a dangerous criminal. He then bailed um, the arms dealer out of jail and told him his true identity and created numerous plans to attack Steele indirectly. basically telling Steele's real identity, his location, and everything else. So um, there was a lot of shootings at the family, tar attacks, many issues overall, causing tar infused gang members to attack his family and everything else. There was so much going on that he was losing a lot of hope. Well, he then tried to take down his opponent, which he was able to do, not easily, of course, but once was able to. He basically tried to retire, and but he's teamed up with the Justice League and everything else. Let's go with that, right? So he's joined the ranks of the Justice League. He's also teamed up with superheroes in general, but he eventually just wanted to retire. At one point, he got rid of his suit and gave it to Natasha. Natasha became the new Steel, and he wanted to have a fresh start in Jersey City. Of course, let's be honest, he becomes Steel once again to battle a bunch of people in New Jersey, but eventually giving it up altogether and giving it back to his niece. And obviously, he had a new resurrection in New 52 comics, um, where he donned his armor in the wake of the Battle of Metropolis, along with most of Earth's heroes united. Steel helped defeat the secret society of supervillains in Superman City, but was extremely bitter about life and what he felt the self-absorbed narcissism of Earth's superhero community. During the cleanup of the disaster, Steel baited um, his niece into an argument where he prevented her from leaving Metropolis in order to join the Teen Titans. John refused to let her go and ordered her to continue collecting all the debris in the city, um, culminating in him destroying her armor. Basically, he destroyed her armor. He later identified a recent discovered corpse of that of Lex Luthor from a parallel universe uh, that exonerated the real Lex Luthor of all his recent crimes. I'm trying to just make sure I don't miss anything else. He's worked with Star Labs several times. Um, and one of the final ones was after Natasha was captured by Luthor, Irons in his full armor led the Teen Titans consisting of Raven, Beast Boy, Aquagirl, and Offspring in an assault on LexCorp. After defeating armed robot guards and the Infinity Incorporated, Irons, with his armor destroyed, engaged Luthor in battle. However, Luthor gained similar abilities to Superman and thrashed Irons, basically beat him to a pulp. Natasha used Irons' sledgehammer to create an EMP that shut down Lex's exogene, and John defeated him. John and Natalie later reestablished Steelworks. And then also at one point, Irons became a founding member of Superman's new team, the Supermen of America. His powers and abilities are he has dome tech transfusion. Um, after a near fatal injury during the convergence, John and his entire psychological surgically modified with alien techno organics to both restore and improve himself dramatically. Now a nano-mechanical entity, John Henry had once again became a literal Man of Steel. Oh, so he granted himself technology powers. Good for him. Good for him. Um, he's had some weird powers. Metamorphosis, energy projection, mechanokinesis, and force fields. His suit was very powerful. Obviously, he's a genius level intellect, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer. He's well in depth in science, weaponry, and physics, computer operations, weaponry, and expert combatant. His equipment, obviously, steel power armor. He's energy resistant, radioscopic scans. His armor has the ability to um, analyze photonic energy given off an object, superhuman durability, and superhuman strength. And obviously, he has his jet boots, he has his kinetic hammer, and sometimes he uses a rivet cannon. This is a short range weapon, has fired red hot rivets, similar to those used in construction. That, my friends, is John Henry Irons from New Earth, specifically DC. The reason why I wanted to bring him up had to do more with the fact of he was introduced in My Adventures with Superman, episode 3, and I thought it'd be really nice to kind of see what his story was like and how it's different from the story that's now being told. So, in the new story, it's now being told that he wanted to help protect the world. And so he created suits that were modeled after Superman to the sense of being as powerful as Superman. Because the idea was the level of heroism and defense was Superman. Because of that, he wanted to create an exosuit for all the people, first responders, and everything else to help protect people. Because he knew Superman can't be everywhere all at once. And that was the start of it all, right? Obviously, he had to fight his old company and everything else, and his company using his technology basically against him. Oh, well, use it more in the sense of like without his permission in a way he did not want it to be done. So that was one of the big things. That being said, he also fought back against the company and technically won. I'm putting that in quotes. Although in My Adventures with Superman, he is technically lost because he got fired and lost his suit. But I'm pretty sure that won't be the last time we get to see Steel. Overall, let me know what you guys think about this character. Um, in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you not? Why? And if there's a character you'd like me to do a character spotlight on, please let me know in the comments down below as well. And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a great night.